welcome to So Easy. Today we're going to be sewing this Kraft Tex wallet. So you may have seen a couple of articles on the So Easy site about Kraft Tex before. It's called a paper fabric and it actually has a leather look to it, which you can have more or less texture. There's an article to show you how to get more or less texture into your Kraft Tex, so take a look at that if you're interested. Basically it is easy to sew, it behaves like paper, so it's easy to cut and mark and so on, but it gives this nice leather look finish to your projects. And today we're going to work on this wallet pattern. The wallet pattern actually comes free from CT Publishing, the people who make the Kraft Tex product, and it also comes as a free pattern on the insert here that you get with your Kraft Tex when you buy it. So let's just have a look. It has a little flap to open, and when you open you've got your wallet on the inside. There's a place here for your ID, a place for a card just here. Here you have an open pocket, then a zipper pocket, and then another open pocket at the back, and then on this side room for more cards and another open pocket just at the back just here. So there's plenty of storage. It's a nice easy wallet to sew. You can have a space for a few cards, a few notes, a few coins and your ID, and it's nice and slimline. That's another good thing about the Kraft Tex product. It doesn't require interfacing and so on, so you can create something which has a nice minimalist and slimline look. So once you've added all your bits and pieces in here, it's still not going to take up a huge amount of space in your bag. So let's get started with sewing it. So these are the materials that we'll need to make your wallet. Obviously your pieces of Kraft Tex, a piece of felt, and the pattern. The pattern comes on the back of the insert for your roll of Kraft Tex. This is the wallet here that we're making, and if you look on the back, the written instructions with the illustrations are here. These are the cutting notes. So cut out all of your pieces of, well, there's one piece of felt, so we can set that to one side. There's one piece of vinyl that we need, and the rest is all of our Kraft Tex pieces, and I've cut these aside according to the chart just here. I'm now going to soak my Kraft Tex and give it an iron. I think actually what I will do, I'm going to scrunch them all up first of all, because I like the kind of scrunched textured leather look, so I'm going to give them all a good scrunch up, make sure they're evenly folded and crushed. And then I'm going to heat them all in some hot water for around 10 minutes, take them out, dry them with an iron, and then we'll be ready to begin. So I've got a separate video on the different ways that you can prepare Kraft Tex. You don't have to prepare it at all, you can just use it straight out of the packet if that's what you prefer. I'm going to give it a go with the leather type of look, and we'll see how that turns out. So it'll take me a little while to heat, dry and iron all of my pieces, and then I'll come back and we'll start with the assembly. My pieces are all now prepared. They've been washed and dried to give them that nice leathery feel and look. So step one in our making the wallet body is to mark fold lines on our wallet body at 2 inches, 6 inches and 10 inches. As you can see, I've already made them with mine. Now ideally you want some kind of folding or marking tool. I've got just a kind of a pointy tool like this, and that works well for me to be able to make some score lines, because whenever you need to fold the Kraft Tex you'll get funny wrinkles unless you can score it first. So I've scored at 2 inches, 6 inches and 10 inches, and then just folded it back and forward along those fold lines. And then it tells us that we need to top stitch across at the top and the bottom of the wallet. So although we've got these folds marked, we just need to create some decorative stitching. So along this edge just here and this edge just here, we'll create a nice neat line of top stitching, and I'm just going to make sure that I run the presser foot right along the edge of here and make a nice even stitch from both of those edges. So the top stitching is done on each of these edges here, and I can just set that aside for now, because now we need to turn to what we've called the flap, 2x4 inch flap, and we need to round the edges. So I've just used the end of my French curve here just to give it a slight rounded shape and marked it with the scoring tool. And now I'll just use my scissors to try and cut a nice smooth shape and keep it even. Okay, that looks good. So that's the end of our flap here, and this is my flap holder 4x1. So now our directions say to top stitch around the flap and the flap holder pieces 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And again, I think this is purely decorative, so I'm just going to follow what they say and just top stitch around the edge of these pieces. So my top stitching is now completed on these two pieces. I think I did a pretty neat job. When you do stitch with the Kraft Tex, you want to use a slightly heavier weight needle because it is going to be thicker to sew than using fabric. So I've got a size 19 needle. I've also increased my stitch length. So where I usually use like a 2.5, I've now got a 3.5 here for my top stitching. And in terms of stopping and starting, rather than back stitch over where you've gone and risk perforating the fabric and have a bit of it break off, what I've done is when I've got to the point where I started, then I'll just match up the stitching, maybe overlap by one stitch, and then pull the threads through to the back and tie them on the back just here, and you could dab a little bit of glue or fray check or something on there just to hold them securely. Okay, so now we can start with the assembly, and we need to add these parts onto the outer of our wallet. So it's time now to add this small piece, the 1x4 rectangle, onto the outer part of our wallet. And if you decided whether you have an inner or an outer, then obviously we're going to put this on the outside of the wallet. And this is the bottom according to the directions. And I've got my fold line here at 2 inches from this edge. And it says our flap holder should be 2 inches in from each side and 1/2 inch above this 2-inch line that we've got here. So I've measured just 2.5 inches up from the bottom here and just drawn a light line here I can barely see, and I've also then measured in 2 inches from either side and just placed a little dot, and that now gives me my placement just here for the flap holder. So I should be able to just easily hold it in place as I sew because I've got those little reference marks just there. I'm actually using one of those friction heat erasable markers, so I can just pop the iron over it afterwards. I'm not making huge marks, just small ones at the corner that are going to help me keep that little flat piece in place. So now I'll take this over to the sewing machine and just do a small square on each of these sides to hold that in place there. So here's our little flap holder in place. Now we need to do the actual flap part itself. The first step is to measure up 1.5 inches from the squared end and score so that you can make a fold for your flap like that. And then our instructions tell us we need to center it on the wallet body 3 inches from each side. So I've measured 3 inches from each side seam and made a mark, and also 1 3/8 below our 10-inch mark. So this is my 10-inch mark here. So 1 3/8, and as you can see, just about see, I've just made some little tiny corner marks just there, and my flap needs to go just here. And then we sew the end of the flap to the wallet body, stitching a 3/4 by 1 3/4 rectangle. So we're going to stitch basically in this area just here. Beautiful. I'll go and do that, and then we'll take a look. Once your flap piece here and here are sewn on nice and neatly, you can actually fold your wallet up now and get an idea of how it's going to look. So these pieces all fold inside, and then this little flap piece will fold down here under the holder at the top. So we get an idea of what it's going to look like. So next we need to work on our zipper pocket piece, and you have your piece which is almost 8 inches square but a little bit smaller, and we need to preserve our 8-inch side, so that we're going to keep the 8 inches here, and then from this end we're going to mark is it 3 7/8? Yes, 3 7/8 of an inch, score a line down the center like that and fold it so that you end up with a square which is 8 inches by 3, a rectangle which is 8 by 3 7/8. And now we need to add our zipper into this part. So this is going to be the area which I'm going to include my zipper. So if we open it out, there are directions for you to draw a rectangle, and this will obviously be on the inside of the pocket, so you aren't going to see this. So I have drawn it in pen so that you can see more easily. It will be 1.5 inches in from each of the side seams, a 1/2 inch down from this fold. So here's my fold line here, and it's a 1/2 inch. So you'll draw your first line a 1/2 inch down. Then we'll also draw another line which is 3/8 of an inch underneath that one. So you'll end up with a rectangle in the center here, which is 5 inches long by 3/8 of an inch deep. And you now need to cut that out of your Kraft Tex. You can use a pair of scissors, but I'm going to do mine with one of these pointy craft knives. So if you're using something like that, or a scalpel or something, do be very careful. So I'm going to carry on cutting out my rectangle, and then we'll meet back to look at the zipper. So I've got my little hole cut out here for the zipper. This is how it will go when it's finished with the zip in here, and I've got my zip ready. It's a little bit over long, so I've just marked where I need to, and I've added some basting glue. I've got this fabric basting glue here, which I've just added along the side, and I think that's going to help me to hold the zipper in place while I sew it. So I'm just going to pop that over there, try and make it nice and even in the window. Obviously I want to make sure also that the zipper pull is going to be within the window itself too. And I'll pop that down like that and just apply a little bit of pressure. I'm just going to hold that for a little while until that glue sets up just a little bit, and then I'll take that over to the sewing machine, and using my zipper foot I'll get in nice and close and stitch around the edge of this rectangle, and that will hold that zipper there in place within that little window that we've created. So the zipper part is now in the wallet, and I've just trimmed off the ends of the zip that we don't need, so we can set that to one side for now. And we need to work on this smaller piece. Let me zoom in. This is going to be the ID section of our wallet. So on the reverse side, I've just marked a 1/2 inch border from each of these sides, and we now need to cut this square out of the center. So I'll cut that square. So my rectangle is now cut out from the center just here, and obviously our lines are still there on the back side, but we don't have to worry about those. And then if you take your piece of vinyl, and we're just going to center the vinyl behind the little window that we have here, and then take this over to the sewing machine, and again stitch. This time we're going to stitch close to this inner window, and as we stitch here it's going to attach that vinyl to the back of this window. So we're almost ready to start assembling, but we have a couple of last pieces to take care of. This one here is the double width card pocket, and we have a single width one here, and we need to just top stitch along one of the long edges. So along one long edge on this piece and one long edge on this piece. So the same as we did when we had our wallet earlier and we stitched along these edges. We're now going to do the same on these two pieces. Now it's time to start putting everything together, and the first area we're going to work on is this part of the bag here that comes under the flap. So eventually this part will fold over to the inside like that. So what we need to do is take our ID card, our ID section, and we're going to line up the outside edge just here, and the bottom edge of the ID needs to be about 1/8 of an inch above this fold line that we have here. So we're just going to pop that like that. Remember that you can trim a little bit if you need to, so square everything up, make sure it looks good. And then this other piece just here, this will be the lower card pocket, will butt up next to it like that, so that the lines along the bottom here will be level. So if I can get my hand out of the way, so that the ID pocket and this card pocket, the bottom lines will be level. These lines here will be butted up to each other, and everything should end up nice and square with the side seams. Let me turn that around so you can take a better look, and I'll zoom in a little bit. So this is how I've got this first side lined up. Just pop the flap back out the way. You've got a little fold there to make sure that you can. And the ID section here, just a little bit above the fold. Same with this other section, just a little bit above the fold. Make sure they butt together, and then we're going to sew 3 lines of stitching. Our first line will be all the way across this bottom edge, and that will secure the bottom of the ID pocket, and also the bottom of this single card pocket just here. And then we need to do 2 vertical lines, and we'll do one up from the bottom here to the center and one up from here to the center, which will catch those 2 pieces. And we'll have some nice parallel lines of stitching go up through the center just here. So I'm going to stitch mine and then we'll take a look at them. So that's the first section of our wallet assembly completed. It's stitched along the bottom and up through the center, but at the moment, as you can see, the edges are free. We're going to take care of those later on. So now time to turn to the other end of our wallet, where we've got the closing area just here. So you've got the fold already pressed in, and you've also got one piece like this, which is the full width card holder. I'm just going to slide that underneath, lining up the edges, so hopefully things are nice and square, and then just fold the flap back down in place. Once everything looks good, add a few clips just here. You don't want to use pins, of course, because the pins will leave holes that you don't necessarily want later on. So I'm going to use some clips to hold mine in place. Okay, so I'm happy with that. We can't just line it up with the fold, because of course the Kraft Tex is quite thick, so we need to give it that little bit of extra space to move, which is why we slide it into the fold like that. So now that we've got the piece like this, we just need to measure along here, find our center and draw a center line. And the same as we did on the other side, we'll do a little bit of top stitching. So once you have your center line marked, do a line of top stitching up either side of your center line, and then all the way along the bottom here, just above the fold, so that you're catching the edge of the piece on the back too. I'll go and do mine, then we'll take a look. So here now is this second side completed. Again, our edges are left open. So now it's time to just turn over your piece and take a look. See if the edges are all lining up or if you've got any problems. I did have one little issue that I ran into here. Remember that we're pulling all of our threads through to the back side and knotting them. Well, when I pulled one through, it snapped, and it snapped too short for me to be able to do a knot. So if that kind of thing happens to you, if you just fuse a little piece of fusible interfacing over those threads, it will hopefully keep that in place and keep them from pulling through if you aren't able to tie a little knot in them. So once everything is all trimmed up and make sure that everything fits nice and square, we're going to add our felt into the center. So if you turn over, you have your fold lines of your wallet here, and I've added some Wonder Under to the back of my felt so that it will make it sticky. And now I'm just going to take it over to the ironing board, pull off this paper backing so that I leave the glue on the back of the felt, and then I'm going to glue the felt in here, just fuse it with the iron between these 2 fold lines. So here's my felt now in place in the center of the wallet, and as you can see, our flaps are going to come into the center like this. Now there is one thing that I just noticed. On this zipper pocket that we sewed earlier, there's no mention in the instructions of top stitching along this edge, but if I look in detail at the picture of the wallet, it definitely does have top stitching, and I think it would benefit from that. It would keep this edge nice and compact together. So I'm going to take this back over to the sewing machine and then just top stitch along this long edge just here, and then we can be almost ready to finish our wallet assembly. So time now to work on the final assembly of our wallet. We have this section here with the ID card, and our zipper pocket section is going to go behind. So in the same as we folded and slid behind on this side, if we fold this up and slide the zipper pocket behind, so immediately I can tell 2 things. It's quite thick, and although I've lined up this side here, my zipper pocket is a little bit too long on that side, so I can see that that side is going to need a little bit of trimming in order to make it fit exactly square with everything else. And I can also see that when I add the zipper pocket in here, it actually takes it further than the central crease here, so now the wallet won't exactly fold in half. So you see like this, it's just beyond that center crease. So I think a lot of this has to do with the felt that I've added. It's quite thick. You can of course just put a piece of fabric there if you wanted. I think as long as you folded in neatly these edges on the sides, you could just put a piece of nice colourful fabric there instead of felt. So that's something to do. So I know that I need to trim a little bit off the bottom, so I'll do that first of all here. I'm just going to take an even amount off the bottom, eyeball it, because that's the kind of girl I am, about there. And I'll start with that first, see if that now works well. Okay, that's much better. Now the wallet will close in half as it's intended to, now that I've taken that little bit of extra off. So that's good, and I know that I need to take a little bit off over here, but as long as I line up one side there so that it's perfect, that's good. So time for a few clips. I'm going to clip this one side that I know is right. And then when we come to this other side, this is all ready to go. It's all sewn together. So again, I'm just going to fold it up, make sure everything is square, and add a couple of clips. And these sides here are all good. So it's only just this little bit here where it's a little bit off square that I need to trim a little bit away from that pocket, and then it will be good. And then we need to just sew around the outside. So once you have everything like this, make sure to hold the flap out of the way as you go past. I'm going to sew all the way around the outside, around an eighth of an inch or so from the edge, and that's going to secure all those layers in place and hold everything in place there like it should be. Okay, so I'm just going to trim and sew, and then we'll take a look. And there we have it, our Kraft Tex wallet is now completed. So I hope you've enjoyed following along with this project. It's certainly a fun thing to sew, and I really love Kraft Tex. This is the first real big project that I've made with it, and I've come to really love this material in terms of how it looks, how easy it is to sew, and how flexible it is. And I've got lots of ideas about how it can be used in bag making and projects and things in future. So I think I'm definitely going to splash out and get myself a few more colours now I've seen just exactly what this can do. So thank you very much for following along with the tutorial. I hope you'll give Kraft Tex a try, maybe this pattern or some others, and I look forward to seeing you over at So Easy again soon. Thanks very much for watching.